Hi everyone, I hope you're well this evening. Welcome to Live After 5. This is a bit of a rant. I'm sorry, I like to call myself a really positive person, but I do need to share with you something that's going on in our office right now. We're inundated with rental inquiries. In all my 24 years in the business, I have never ever seen the rental market so dysfunctional. So we put a property up to rent in Foxwood and we'd like over 60 inquiries in a few hours. And then the office had like huge amount of phone calls, emails, and then I had people messaging me on my phone all night. And someone said, it must drive you crazy. I said, you know what? The people are desperate. They are desperately looking for rental properties and there's nothing to rent. It's terrible. So what's happening? Right now, the government is talking about the building plans and yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. According to the experts, it's 20,000 shy of what we need in terms of supply. But just let's look at the rental market because it is so messed up. I met a politician recently, I won't say which one, and I said, until the situation arises where nurses can't get a rental property, nobody's going to listen. I'm worried about nurses, people working who aren't entitled to HAP, who can't get on the housing list. There's nowhere for them to rent. I had a gentleman who runs a very successful business recently tell me, Regina, I have a really great guy that works with me and his landlord is selling his house and he can't stay in Waterford because he can't find a rental property. Now we did manage to find him a house and it will be ready at the end of October. So we're dealing with wait lists. So what is wrong right now? Okay, we have landlords racing out of the market, like racing. And people might say, well, why is that? You know, the rents are really strong. Well, one, the market is strong, so it's an incentive for landlords to sell their property and capitalise on prices right now. And then you have a situation where landlords are paying in excess of 50% tax on the rental income. I spoke to a lady today who was she was really trying to get accommodation for 2 nurses. And I said, look, the landlords aren't staying in the market and we are reliant on the private landlord for stock. And I said, you know, they pay like over 50% in tax. So if the rent is 1,000, they pay 500 plus, then they pay agent fees, and then they pay approximately 10% on maintenance. So you're probably looking at 65% of the rental income is paid out on charges. Now, then you've got the rent pressure zone, which came in overnight, which a lot of good things materialised as a result of that, but it's not all good. And then some people who had really low rents got caught. And for example, what do I mean by got caught? Well, in an apartment block that we rent in, one owner left the rent at 500, didn't increase it, so he could only increase it by 4%, whilst everyone else is charging market value, which was 875. So that owner sold the property because of the rent pressure zone coming in overnight. Then the rent pressure zone is now changed to in line with inflation, which is more than half of the 4% is all that's allowable for rent increases. Now we do need stability for tenants. I absolutely agree. There has to be something in place to prevent rents from going mad. They're already mad in some places. They're just unjustified. But just remember, if we need the private landlord who supplies 4/5 of our properties to provide the stock, we do need to incentivise them to stay in the market. Now, another contributing factor for landlords is that if there's a dispute with the tenant for either party, you go to the RTB. Now, that situation is quite dysfunctional because if a tenant doesn't pay their rent and it goes to the RTB, and even if the RTB rule in favour of the landlord, there's actually no eviction mechanism that's legal. So you could be waiting really long time to actually get proper recourse. Now, we're very fortunate, even during COVID, our wonderful tenants, 99.9% of our tenants really, really made a big effort and paid their rent. So in other words, we have great tenants who take their responsibility paying rents seriously. And right now, to see the landlords fleeing the market, and everyone's on the radio saying, oh, landlords are greedy, landlords are greedy. Whether you think they're greedy or not, we need landlords. We need the private landlord to provide supply. So we have no rental properties advertised. In 24 years, I have never, ever, 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 ever seen the situation as bad. People are desperate. There is no houses for nurses. There are no houses for, I had an email from a really nice restaurateur that I know. He wants a house for his head chef. I don't have a house for his head chef. I don't have a house for anybody. We've no houses. And so we need the government to sit up. If we're reliant on the private landlord to provide supply, we need to be engaging with the government needs to engage with agents like myself, with bodies like the IPAV, the Institute of Auctioneers and Valuers, who represent the property owners, organisations that represent property owners. The majority of landlords are actually accidental landlords, and you might say, well, how do you become an accidental landlord? Well, an accidental landlord is maybe like a couple who get together, get married, or move in together into one of the couple's properties, and then there's another property. Or they're left a property from a family member, and then they decide to keep it. Or somebody who decides to buy a rental property as part of their pension plan, that it's an income for when they retire. Isn't that great? We need that. We need those people to supply the market, but they're racing out. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided to count all the ads for properties for sale on Daft in Waterford City. So in the price bracket of houses in Waterford City, there were 59 houses for sale under 350,000. Of those 59, I counted 27, which I figure are rental properties. And you might say, well, how do you know they're rental? Well, some are in Foxwood, some are in certain streets and estates that I know are rental properties. And some of them I recognise. So 27 out of 59 properties for sale in Waterford City under 350 are leaving. And I didn't read the stats before I came on this, but there was a really interesting article, not Sunday gone, but the Sunday before, on the Sunday Business Post, about the amount of landlords that are leaving the market. When is somebody going to sit up and say, what are we going to do about this? It's terrible. It breaks my heart. There is no houses to rent. So I'm sorry if I sound dramatic, but I really want the media to pick up on this. I really want our politicians to sit up. What are we going to do? And yes, there's loads of empty properties that they're talking about regenerating, which is really, really important. But what are we going to do to keep landlords in the market? That is my burning question. So take care, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and thank you very much for watching. Slán go fóill.